This is Wild Nevadacast. I'm Dave Santina in the studio at PBS Reno in Reno, Nevada, and joined today by a former colleague and friend and a good guy, Peter Stanton, who is CEO of Walker Basin Conservancy. I dance between the things I've read. Some say CEO, some say executive director. He's probably both.
Just the guy who's got the honor of leading the operation.
The guy to point the finger at.
Exactly. And what a pleasure to be back here, Dave.
Yeah, well, so Pete, for those who don't know, and I suspect many don't, Peter was our VP of development for a number of years, and it's been almost 4 years since you took over at Walker Basin Conservancy. That's incredible to me.
Yeah, it's been quite the
flies.
journey.
Yeah, so the reason I wanted to talk is that Walker River, or Walker Lake and Walker River, have been a part of Wild Nevada for years. We spent a lot of time over at Walker Lake in the early iteration of Wild Nevada, kayaking and looking at pelicans, which I'm still kind of amazed exist in the state of Nevada. And over the years, we saw firsthand the changes to the lake level, and it was started to get really depressing. And I'm sure there were many who were already far worse off than we were psychologically at that point. But for us, it was really sad to see. And then we were hoping to see some changes, and there's been a profound improvement over the years because of people like you and an organization like Walker Basin Conservancy. So I wanted to introduce that to people who maybe don't know what's going on with trying to replenish that water that has drained out of the lake for so many years.
Yeah. Thank you. And thanks for kind of highlighting that and your personal history with it, right? And for a lot of folks who have lived in Nevada, people have some kind of personal connection to Walker Lake.
Definitely.
Whether it was fishing as kids for hunting cutthroat trout, right? These trophy cutthroat trout.
Right.
Or more recent years, it's driving by on the way to Las Vegas, right? Like that's a lot of folks' connection.
It was mine for years. And it's one of the beautiful moments of that whole drive from Reno to Vegas. It's a scene, this beautiful water and these mountains to the right as you're heading south or the other way.
Yeah. And I mean, I will never forget the first time as an adult that I saw Walker Lake with the sun going behind the mountains as sunset, cast over the lake. And it's an experience that people, first of all, have been enjoying there for thousands of years, right? And so, there have been people living on the north shore of Walker Lake going back thousands of years. And the fishery and the waters of the Walker River and the Walker Lake have been integral to human cultures living at the lake for a long, long time, right? So the Walker River Paiute have lived on the north shore of Walker Lake for thousands of years. And in their native language, they refer to themselves as trout eaters. And they refer to Walker Lake as trout water. And since 2009, there have been no trout in the waters of Walker Lake.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, and for those of us Nevadans that cherish our waters, cherish the natural habitat of our state, a true tragedy, right? And so, the Walker River feeds Walker Lake. There's no outflow. It's very similar to Pyramid Lake, right?
It's the terminus lake, right?
Exactly. It's the end of the road, right? Like the end of the basin is at Walker Lake. And Walker Lake used to be half the size of Lake Tahoe.
That's incredible. And I had no idea until literally looking at your website, which I'm going to rep here, walkerbasin.org.
Appreciate the plug. Yeah.
And there is a map, a map there that shows the current size of the lake, which is what I've grown up knowing.
We're familiar with, yeah.
And then I see these other versions, these historical lake sizes that are stunningly larger. I had no idea.
Yeah, really. So since European arrival, Walker Lake has lost 90% of its volume. And that's due to diversion of the river, right? So in the agricultural valleys upstream of Walker Lake, we're diverting all of the water. Historically, it's been truly all of the water from the Walker River. So in the region, there's more rights to divert water from the river than there is water in the river.
And
right? So forget about Walker Lake.
Right.
There's not enough water in the river to irrigate all the acreage we're irrigating, right?
The math does not work.
The math doesn't work, and it's led and that difference is made up by groundwater pumping, right? So we've seen water tables coming down year after year after year in Smith and Mason valleys as well. And so we work with farmers and ranchers to ensure long-term water supply in our region and restore a fishery at Walker Lake. Right. So it's a very ambitious project. Like I said, we're talking about refilling a lake that used to be half the size of Lake Tahoe, right? A ton of water. Our goal is to bring Walker Lake up to roughly where it was in the year 2000. If we can bring it back to the elevation it was at in 2000, we'll be able to restore and sustain a Lahontan cutthroat trout fishery, right? And so for folks, I'm sure there's an episode of Wild Nevada involving fishing at Pyramid, right? And pulling these giant trophy trout out of Pyramid.
Well, I mean, I was in it, so probably no success in actually catching
not
a fish.
catching. So watch somebody else catching a fish in
always
Pyramid
somebody
Lake.
else catching a trophy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is a special experience, and to be able to restore that would feel miraculous.
Yes.
Where did you begin along this process, and where do you stand now?
Yeah, so our goal is to increase the quantity of water leaving Mason Valley by 50,000 acre feet a year. And like to put that in context, a typical residential lot in Reno, about a third of an acre.
Okay.
So 50,000 acre feet is enough to cover a residential lot in roughly 15 miles of water annually. A ton of water.
That's a lot.
It's a lot of water. And the great news is, to date, we have permanently acquired 28,000 acre feet of water. So roughly 57% of our overall goal.
That's impressive.
We've done that through working with 157 farmers and ranchers. Broad adoption of this program. And along the way, we've been able to drive a lot of long-term benefits for our communities as well.
So for someone like me who's ignorant about farming, I've obviously been through Mason Valley. I've been through along Walker River. I've been in Walker River, sometimes unintentionally, but that's just the way it works on that show. But I don't know enough to understand, why would a rancher, a farmer, give away those rights or sell those rights, because it seems to me like, without knowing any better, they would have to keep that in order to keep their farm or their ranch.
Yeah, it's a good question. So we work with farmers and ranchers on transactions, right? And really that means that we're providing a market for folks to basically sell water to the environment, right? And so that Walker Lake itself and Walker River itself have rights represented in the water rights scheme in the basin, right? Gotcha. And really that means, we've worked with farmers and ranchers who have come to the table because they want to see a legacy in increasing the flows of the Walker River and in supporting the recovery of Walker Lake. And then, I can't come to you today, Dave, and just buy your house at fair market value. Right. And so it's a lot of the life transitions that bring people into the program. Right. It's first of all, it gets harder and harder every year to grow grass in the desert, and that's what we're talking about. Right. For the most part, is hay production in the high desert. The hot years are hotter. The dry years are drier. Right. It gets harder and harder. Generational change is a big part of that as well. Right. As it gets harder to farm in the region, it's harder to sustain small family farms, and we see increasing consolidation of land ownership as well.
A lot of newer, later generations sometimes just don't want to live that life.
That's right. Well, and the economic upside isn't what it used to be.
Yeah.
Right. It just isn't. And so as folks face these challenges, the Conservancy is able to play a role, giving people the opportunity to, create a legacy for their families, as well as to support environmental water and environmental flows in the Walker River and Walker Lake.
So there's some pride in giving back and being able to say, we didn't just take this, we're returning it, and we're part of seeing our piece of the world restored and thriving and keeping the next generation and those beyond with a beautiful location and a sustainable life, and maybe get back to some of the lifestyle options that were here 1,000 years ago.
Yeah, well, and 1,000 years ago, 50 years ago,
Yeah,
right?
50
Like,
years
like
ago, yeah.
not that long ago
That's
at all.
true, yeah, right.
Where we had thriving agriculture, and I mean, in the 80s, half of the Mineral County, Nevada economy was based on tourism at Walker Lake. You could get on a charter flight from Southern California
Wow.
to go trout fishing at Walker Lake, right? And that's hard, especially like for folks who have moved to the region. That's hard to wrap your mind around,
Yeah.
right? When you visit communities like Schurz, communities like Hawthorne that have historically relied on Walker Lake, right?
Yep.
And so, like you said, in terms of legacies, there's the opportunity for folks to play a meaningful part in bringing some balance back, right? We, like at the Conservancy, we know that having a river that flows and having a lake at the end of our river system contribute to the long-term resilience of agricultural water supply as well, right? It's not one versus the other. It's bringing balance to the system as a whole.
I got it. So, scientifically speaking, what has to happen to that water that is returned in order to make it habitable?
Oh, great
Because
question.
don't you
yeah,
have
absolutely. Great question.
There aren't any fish there now.
So
right?
here's what's happened over time, right? So as you said, Walker Lake is a terminus lake. There's no outflow, right? So as the inflow's reduced, water keeps evaporating. Right. And so as water evaporates out year after year, and for 100, 150 years, minimal water was flowing in, water would evaporate out, but the salt doesn't evaporate out.
Oh, yeah.
And so it leads to an increase in salinity, right? And so the lake has been too saline to support Lahontan cutthroat trout since, roughly 2009, and fish life of any kind since roughly 2015.
Wow.
And so our goal is to increase freshwater flows, bring the lake back up to a point where the salinity is stable and we can support a fishery.
Gotcha. And that, is there any kind of forecast about when that could be? I mean, obviously it's completely we're speculating here.
Yeah. So it is heavily dependent on the weather, right? Like more than anything. So in 2023, Walker Lake came back up 16 vertical feet. Okay. If we had another winter like that, we would be talking about reintroducing cutthroat trout into Walker Lake. And we own enough water today. The Conservancy has protected enough water to sustain Walker Lake at that level should it come up. So we're looking for that slug of water basically to get back to that restoration goal. And then we can sustain it already.
That's impressive. I didn't know it was that close. That's exciting.
It's that close if we have record winters,
right?
And that's one of the challenges in all of this is I can say, it's this many years, it's that many years, but I was talking to a colleague who gave me great advice, which is it's really difficult to choose the driest decade on record to try to save a lake like Walker Lake, right? And that's what we're coming off of is one of the driest decades on record. So.
Yeah, well, you don't like to do things the easy way.
Oh, and it's one of those things like when's the best time to plant a tree, right? It's 20 years ago.
Right,
so,
of course.
Yeah,
always.
Absolutely. But for those, for folks who watch Wild Nevada or for folks who care about landscapes in Nevada, it's one of the most meaningful ways that you can get involved in shaping, what our next generations will inherit, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Where like the Conservancy exists basically like as a trust for water in our region. And, folks may not connect various parts of the watershed.
Right.
It's really easy because our valleys go north and south, right? And the roads go north and south.
Right.
And so if you're driving 395 south out of Carson Valley past Topaz, then down towards Bridgeport through the West Walker Canyon there, that's the river that feeds Walker Lake. And it feels a world apart, right? It is. It's like 100 river miles apart or something like that, right? But it's just an incredibly diverse watershed and a place where we're talking from Walker Lake at 4,000 feet to the Sierra Crest at 12,000 feet, bordering Yosemite National Park. It's an amazing place.
That is quite stunning. When you look at it on a map, it's overwhelmingly huge.
It's the size of Delaware.
Yeah, it's just bizarre.
Yeah.
So, all right. So maybe not fishing immediately, but maybe some other recreational opportunities can come back. I know I was reading some things again from, and I'll say it again, walkerbasin.org. Information about previous activities, boat races, fishing derbies, stuff like that. Fishing derbies down the road.
There was a loon festival.
But
at
the
Walker
loon
Lake.
festival used to be there, right? That ended at, what, 09, I think I read it was the last loon festival. And I remember pelicans flying around and swimming next to me, and when I was in a kayak thinking, well, how are there even pelicans in this state? I really didn't know anything about any of the worlds outside of concrete. So I was shocked when I'd see what I thought were ocean birds at Pyramid Lake and at Walker Lake. It was stunning to me, an eye opener. But getting back to that kind of an environment where you can show up and, yes, you still, I think, might see bighorn from time to time, right? They come down to the
all
river.
the time, yeah.
That's a beautiful draw, incredible. And I've had people, over the years, we've tried to arrange to shoot Wild Nevada in the area. And one of the things that I keep wanting to capture is the moments when the bighorn come down and you get gorgeous footage, but you can't predict it. They don't have a schedule. They sometimes don't show up. So it's one of those sort of crapshoots where you take
I know
a
a
shot
guy.
at
I
it.
know a guy, Dave.
Oh, you know
I'll
a
get
guy.
you, absolutely. We'll get you set up. We'll get you set up with that.
Talk to Chris Orr. She's going to be trying to put a show together over there pretty soon. You guys might want to arrange for a co-host,
a bighorn visit.
Bighorn co-hosting segment.
We'll make it happen.
I'd like to see that. And so,
but
the recreation's coming back.
Recreation's
down the road.
coming back. Well, and along the lines, there have been these amazing opportunities to increase public access and create new recreation opportunities. I think you were able to experience one when you flipped a kayak on the East Walker River at the state park out there, Walker River State Recreation
Area. I
take
issues with whoever's in charge with trimming the hedges on the sides of that river.
It must have been the willows on the side of the river. So where you guys were, that's the Walker River State Recreation Area, about 12 miles south of Yerington on the East Walker River.
And it was brand new when we visited, and now it's been a few years. Gorgeous facility.
Yeah, totally, absolutely, and that is part of the Walker Basin Restoration Program, right? So those are historic ranches on the East Walker River that were acquired through our program, transferred to the state of Nevada, and opened more than 12,000 acres to public access on the East Walker. And if you haven't been out there, man, it's like a nice, easy drive from, Reno, Sparks, Carson, and, easy drive to the visitor center, easy chance to get on the river. And then if you go a little bit further, it gets very remote very quickly out there. A true chance to get out into the wilderness in like an hour and a half from Reno.
Yeah,
not far.
And you're absolutely right. It's an easy drive. I think of it as being farther away than it is, because when you're out there,
it feels
so completely away from any city kind of atmosphere, which is perfect. It's what you want when you want to go to a place like that, and but the facilities are modern and well maintained and clean. It's a really beautiful location. I recommend it to anyone who's curious. It's worth the visit.
Yeah, definitely worth a visit. And we've had the opportunity to do similar things in Mason Valley. So we helped expand the wildlife management area in Mason Valley, adding, I think, roughly 3,000 acres to that management area. Altogether, we've provided public access to roughly 29 miles of the Walker River through this program.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
You're really expanding access. So for recreation lovers, you're not just saving the lake. You are creating opportunities for people along the river to have incredible personal family experiences out in the open. It's beautiful. And you don't just do recreation work and water purchasing and saving. You're actually I looked at the website, and I'm going to say it again. It's walkerbasin.org. There is a beautiful interactive map there with all of these projects you're doing all over the state that you can sort of find the locations and read about all these different kinds of projects. And, we just had Emma Wynn here from the Nevada Native Plant Society a few days ago, and she talked about the work that you guys are doing with nurseries.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And so it opened my eyes again. You've got you've got native plant work going on there, and so I think that most people maybe don't realize that.
Yeah. So one of our biggest needs in our region is restoring wildlife habitat on former alfalfa fields, right? And when we started doing that, it became really apparent you can't buy enough plants to do that, right? Like,
right.
And really, like in our region, in the Walker, there's areas that get 5.5 inches of rain, snow water equivalent a year, and there's not much that grows with that, right? Except for these amazing Nevada native plants, right? We've got all of these plants that are adapted to these extremely challenging conditions, and we're trying to make them available, right? Whether we're talking after wildfires, we're talking, after disturbance, development, that sort of thing. We're working with partners, including, from federal land managers to state agencies, also to industry partners to expand the availability of native plants. So right now we're growing roughly 80 species of plants, and we've got a retail nursery that's open to the public in Smith Valley. And yeah, you can go online to walkerbasin.org and check out the inventory that we have and learn more about like why these drought tolerant native plants are such a benefit for homeowners, developers, landscapers.
Yeah, I could see the value of making sure that your home landscaping is all native plants. That would be a brilliant approach. I'm pretty sure that what my house has is not all native stuff.
Well, and so, we're kind of into this at my house, right? But it's been amazing just in a suburban house in Reno, Nevada, to see how much wildlife comes back when you get like native plants in there, right? And that's butterflies, that's birds, like so many more animals visiting our yard.
Yeah, it's true. They all ate everything in my yard last year, even the non-native stuff. That was
Love it.
It was it's a wild kingdom out there sometimes. But we're not giving up. We're gonna maybe this year it's a native plants for our replanting. Thinking about all the things that you guys do, you have a pretty good crew working for you guys. You have an
amazing team,
of quite a team. Do you ever use volunteer assistance as well?
Absolutely. So I mean, we've got, I think, something coming up next week. So there's all kinds of ways to get involved as volunteers, right? So we do STEM education workshops where we're getting local kids out on the river, experiencing the landscape, and then tying it to state curriculum as well, right?
Oh, beautiful.
So volunteer opportunities to get involved there. We do planting days, typically around public lands, right? So we had a great one at Wilson Canyon. So the beautiful canyon.
I know Wilson Canyon. That's another one. Why does everything remind me of a failure of mine? I flipped a kayak. I crashed a bike in Wilson Canyon way back 25 years ago, practically 24 years ago. Head over handlebars.
Oof.
And a borrowed bike, by the way, which is
there's the problem right there.
It was a borrowed bike, and I remember in the air thinking, "Don't let the bike hit the ground. This is not your bike." It landed on me, and I pretended like I caught it, and I was thrilled.
It kind of goes to what we were saying earlier, which is like the Walker's just a little bit wilder than you expect. Like it's that one valley over, and it's just a little bit more Nevada, a little bit wilder.
But I think of Wilson Canyon as one of the beautiful spots.
Yes.
When I'm driving through that area, I always love to look around or pull over. There are a couple of pullouts,
a couple of fishing spots there too.
It is truly beautiful, and so regardless of the little BMX attempt we made where I hit the ground, I have only good feelings about that canyon. And it's fantastic. It's a beautiful spot. So volunteer opportunities.
Exactly. So we've got a couple restoration projects out there. We've done volunteer days out there. If you go to our website, walkerbasin.org, you can you see a list of upcoming events. And so there's planting days, there's environmental education workshops. We also just do like outreach and are always looking for folks to help support our efforts, talking about our work.
Yeah. Okay. So if somebody wants to get involved, learn about what opportunities there are to volunteer, I'm going to guess they go to that website?
That website will get you there, Dave.
What's the name of that website?
That website's called walkerbasin.org.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
You have a QR code we can put up here or something? Yeah. No.
And now we worked together for a while, so I know a little bit about you before beyond what you're doing now, and you cross over into an area that we had a previous guest on at one of our Wild Nevadacasts, and that was John Trent, who's an ultra runner, a trail runner. And I know that
yes.
you used to talk about trail running. Are you still active?
I very much so. I love being outside. That's where I find my joy. That's where I find my peace, is just being outside. And honestly, like, the further away from the trailhead, the better, right? And so for me, in the winter, that's on skis in the mountains. In the summer, it's on trails.
Yeah. And so, well, you mentioned on skis. I also wanted to make a note to ask about your work with the Sierra Avalanche Center. You're a board member still?
Yeah. I've been involved with the Avalanche Center for a long time. For folks who aren't aware, Sierra Avalanche Center provides a daily backcountry avalanche forecast for our region. So helping keep people safe when they're recreating on snow, right? So whether you're a snowshoer, snowmobiler, cross-country skier, backcountry skier, I don't know, there's all these new sports coming out too. I don't even stay up to date on them. But no, so free of charge, SierraAvalancheCenter.org. There's an avalanche bulletin every day. We work closely with the Weather Service, work closely with all kinds of public safety agencies to get the word out when conditions are unsafe in the backcountry.
Okay, so how did you become so outdoors centric? You're like my polar opposite. You're always outside.
I just love it. I'm drawn to it
from childhood.
I mean, I grew up playing sports, and then I grew up, my grandparents had a small farm, right? And we spent time outside. We spent time playing sports, and that's kind of like, yeah, that's what brings me joy is enjoying the wild spaces in our region and getting out into the quiet, getting away from folks, and yeah.
Nice. Well, I do know that occasionally you are on the pavement because you're running the Odyssey this year. I know you're on the same team as a certain host of Wild Nevada, Chris Orr. I'm
looking forward to it. It's going to be a blast. I think it's been probably 10 plus years since I've run the Reno Tahoe Odyssey.
Okay.
So yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to it.
That's going to be fun. Well, I will follow your progress as you two take turns running 178 or so miles, 123, something like that.
There will be 12 of us. It won't be me and Chris Orr running 178 miles.
I like to imagine it just you two taking turns.
Yeah. Yes, something like that.
What's the total? It's 100 plus miles. The whole. I
want to say 178.
It is 178. Yeah. Oh, now that you say that, I remember all the bumper stickers I've seen.
That's what I was trying to remember.
If you see a window sticker with a 178 around the Reno area, it's from the Reno Tahoe Odyssey. It means that somebody either ran it or bought a sticker. Yeah. Or in my case, I have a T-shirt that says Reno Tahoe Odyssey, which I did not earn, but I was given because we did a video with him 1 year, and I pretend like I earned it somehow.
Well, and it's this awesome event that's got this legacy locally. I have no idea how long it's been going on, but it certainly predates my time in Northern Nevada. And for folks who don't know, it's a 12-person relay race that starts and ends in Reno, but goes around Lake Tahoe. Yeah. Through Carson City up to Virginia City and then back to the river in Reno. So
incredible.
It's a blast.
Yeah, it always looks like fun. I was invited 1 year. I almost did it. I didn't, and I'm not sure anyone's ever going to invite me again, and I'm not sure I'd be able to pull it off even if they did. But we shall see. All right. Before we go, just wanted to reiterate again, I keep hitting the website, but walkerbasin.org is full of information about all the work that Peter and the team at Walker Basin Conservancy are doing, and I'm rooting for a heavy winter next year to get you closer to the fish.
Keep praying for snow. I gotta end on a story, right? I gotta end on a story of renewal and a story of hope before we head out.
Excellent.
So, one of my earlier experiences with the Conservancy was going out onto the Walker River, just north of Walker Lake, at the end of an irrigation season. Okay, so we're on the Walker River Paiute Reservation, the Walker River Reservation, and for the last 6 months, something like that, the only water that had flown through roughly a 20-mile stretch of river was because of the Conservancy.
Wow.
Okay, for 6+ months. That stretch of river had gone bone dry in most years for like 100 years or something like that. And so I'm out there, and for 6 months, the only water through there was from the Conservancy. And I'm out there, and the river's alive, Dave. There's shorebirds out there. There's waterfowl out there. There's antelope. We saw bear tracks out there.
Wow. Okay.
And what occurred to me, what was immediately apparent to me, is we've got all of these challenges with water management. We've got all of these logistical hurdles that we've got to get over. But when we start putting water back where it belongs, amazing things happen. And, you know, if you've never had the chance to experience it, reach out. I'll show you. It's amazing. It's one of the most powerful experiences that I've had in this landscape. And that's the kind of thing that gets me up every morning. And yeah, awesome.
God, I'm inspired. That sounds incredible. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
That makes me feel good. That's a positive. We're moving in the right direction.
Exactly.
Upward trajectory.
Exactly.
That's so great. Well, thank you for that. That makes me that makes me smile, and I'm looking forward to whatever you end up doing with Chris on Wild Nevada. I know that's coming soon because she's excited to get out and see that area again, and I may have to tag along on that one just to see how it's going.
I would love to have you.
It sounds so amazing. All right, well, thank you. Now, before we go, I want to remind everybody to watch Wild Nevada, please, on PBS Reno. That's via broadcast or streaming at pbsreno.org and on many other streaming sources, and also watch segments on PBS's YouTube channel. Now, do you have a question about Wild Nevada or maybe a comment or a suggestion? If so, please send them to me at podcasts@pbsreno.org. Thanks to Peter Stanton for coming in today. I appreciate that. And thank you for listening to Wild Nevadacast.